Hello dear students, welcome to the lecture series of Advanced Java. Today we are going to learn something very interesting, which is servlet form processing. In this lecture you are going to learn about how you can build a very small or a mini website, a website of one page. Okay, so we are going to create a form which is going to take two numbers from the client. These two numbers will be redirected to the servlet. So we are going to create a servlet at a place, and we are going to create a web.xml file which is going to help you link your form with your servlet, with which you can add the two numbers which the client had sent to you. So without wasting any time, let us begin. We shall now process the form and develop a mini website. So let's start this exciting journey. Now this is my web application which I have created. In this web application, as you can see, I have done just nothing. It's a fresh web application in which your web-inf is empty, so you don't have any deployment descriptor inside. This is my source package which is empty, which means I don't have any servlet in this web application currently. And libraries, you can see I have Glassfish server, which says that my servlet demo web application is deployed on Glassfish server. Now I will first create a simple form. So let me name it index.html. In this form, I am going to create two numbers and I am going to send them to the servlet. So let me take action is equal to adding servlet. Okay, this is a page where my form will be redirected, and method for taking parameters I will set as get. I'm closing my form. This is what you have learned in web technology. Now I'm taking an input parameter, type is equal to text, and let me name it as number 1. And this is my input. Let me take a second number and name it 2, and let me take a submit button and let me name it submit. And let me have its value submit. Okay. Now this form I have created, which should be added to, which should redirect to a servlet. Let me create a servlet. In my default package, new servlet. The name of the servlet is add servlet, and let me finish it. We will add it to the web.xml. Now you can see there is nothing in my web INF, but when I do this and I click on finish, you can see my URL pattern, it is add servlet. Okay, and when I click on finish, my web INF has a web.xml file now. Okay, and this is my web.xml file. It has a servlet called as add servlet, which you can see it is here, and you can also see the URL pattern with which you can connect to this particular class. Okay, now I already told you that as many number of servlets you make, the entries will be done in the web.xml file. Okay, so let us just check that also, how your file will look. New servlet, let me make it second servlet, and next I will add it to the deployment descriptor. So there will be an entry for your second servlet into this file. Let me click on finish, and now let me open this file. Now you can see there is a servlet tag for add servlet and another servlet tag for second servlet. There is a servlet mapping tag for add servlet and another mapping tag for second servlet. So as many number of servlets you add here, their data or their details will be added into the web.xml file. Okay, now in this form I have set my adding servlet I want to redirect it here. I have not yet redirected, but I will redirect here. Now this is my import javax.servlet.star and java import javax.servlet.http.star. Okay, now I'm going to create my class, public class add servlet extends http servlet. Okay, now it becomes a subclass of http servlet. Yesterday I told you about the hierarchy, which says that you have an inbuilt generic servlet which has a subclass http servlet, and whatever servlet classes that you make have to by default inherit from http servlet. Okay, now it has a void do get method. Okay, and this do get method, here I am taking get specifically because here I have taken the method get. If I use the method post here, then the method that I need to use here is also post. Okay, now this do get method is taking two parameters, http servlet request and http servlet response. Okay, now we are creating just the reference of these two interfaces, that is REQ and RES. They are references of this particular interface, but your Tomcat is going to create objects of http servlet request and http servlet response and give back to you. So you are not responsible for creating the objects of these both interfaces. They will be created by Tomcat by default. Okay, now this parameter we are taking because we want to take data from the client and bring it to the server, whereas HTTP response is everything that a web server is going to return back to the client in form of a page that is displayed in the browser. Okay, so that is the reason we are taking both these servlet request and servlet response interface, and we are using HTTP because we are dealing with HTTP request and response. Okay, now this method is compulsory going to throws two exception. One is IO exception and servlet exception. Okay, now I need to import IO, otherwise it won't work. So import java.io.star. Okay, now inside this, first thing I have to tell them is I'm going to render a page which is in HTML. So response.set content type, and content type is text/HTML. Now if I want to write, if I write s out hello, then this is system.out.println, which is going to display the things in my console. Now I don't want to print it on the console, instead I want to print it on the web page. So I need to use another class printWriter, which is in IO, printWriter out, okay, and response.getWriter. So your getWriter is a method of your HTTP servlet response, which is going to help you write the data, and it is returning printWriter, as you can see. So this we are storing it in a variable out, which is of printWriter type. Okay, now we don't need this statement. I can directly write out.println service method. Let us not write service method, servicing. Okay, this is just a print statement that I have given. Now there should be some method in which you are sending this form, you are redirecting this form to this adding servlet. Okay, so how will you tell your form that your adding servlet is here, and by this adding servlet I mean I want to call this add servlet. So there should be some connection between this particular class that I have made and this particular action. So this linking can be done in the web.xml file. So when I will run this file, that is my index.html, this file, this particular thing will be searched for, this URL will be searched for. So here, first change that I need to do is in this URL pattern of a file, this file or this file. Do I want to call second servlet or I want to call add servlet? So I want to call add servlet, so the change should be made in the add servlet file. Okay, so here I have to write adding servlet. This is my first change. Okay, so let me see, the names are matching, adding servlet, and here, okay, adding servlet. Now whenever I will run this file, my control will go to web.xml, it will search for the same URL pattern, it is getting this. Then it will see that it has a name called add servlet. So it is going to go to the same tag like this, servlet name add servlet, which is this. Okay, and based on this it is going to search for a class file. So the class file is add servlet here. Okay, so this name should compulsory be the same as this name, but this name is something that I can change. I can make it my servlet. So this also has to be my servlet. Okay, so what you have to take care is whatever URL you are writing here should be inside your URL pattern tag. Okay, it should be matching. Second, what should be matching? Whatever servlet name you are giving here should be matching with the servlet name here. There should be no changes in these two. These two should be matching. And third thing that you need to check for matching is whatever servlet class name you have given here, this same name has to be here. Okay, in your add servlet. Only then you will be successfully able to set up a connection. Okay, now when I will run this file, this control will go here. Okay, from your web.xml it will find the name of the servlet, which is my servlet. It will go into the servlet tag, it will find my servlet and find out which class I have to call. So here it comes to know that it has to call add servlet, and add servlet is over here. So by default this class will be called. Second thing you need to take care is it will move on to this parameter, that is method get. So here it is get, so inside this class it will search for a do get method. If this method is not found, if any other method is found apart from get, then there is going to be a problem. Okay, now what we want to do is we will now start the various accessing the various parameters from this part, which is your we will now start to access the various parameters from the client. Okay, so that means we are going to access or take these two numbers and read it in this servlet because we want to add them. So next thing is we are going to take these parameters from the client. So things that are happening here is things are going from client side to the server side. So when you are having things moving from client to server, they will be stored in REQ object, request object, HTTP servlet request object, which Tomcat is by default creating and storing everything inside. So if I run the form and I am passing 2 and 3 inside that form and submitting, then Tomcat or Glassfish is going to create object for HTTP servlet request REQ, and inside that REQ it will store the values 2 and 3. So I need to get the values from REQ. So here I am going to do something, REQ dot get parameter. This method I will call request dot get parameter method, and you can see that this method is returning a string. So get parameter, and inside I will pass something. Now what is this something that I am going to pass? This something is the first parameter that I want to get is the first number, and the name of this input is num1. So here I am going to write num1. Okay, so this is going to return a string. Now can we add two strings? No. So I need to convert them in integer form. So I can do integer dot parseInt, and I can convert whatever string this is giving into an integer, and I can store it in integer a. Okay, the same thing I will do again for getting the second parameter. Okay, instead of num1 I will write num2. Why? Because my second parameter is num2. Okay, so here num2 and integer will be b. Okay, so I have read both the integers. Next thing is your simple core Java concept a plus b, and then you can directly write out dot println or println, and you will write C. Okay, so this is what now you are going to write on your browser side and give it back to the client. Okay, now let us run the whole program and see. I hope we don't get any errors. Let us just check the whole flow again. This is my index.html. I am having an action, I am having the get method, I am having number1, number2, and here I am submitting. It is going to go in adding servlet, which is here. In my adding servlet, it will get the name, it will find the same name here, it will find a class for this, that is add servlet, it will go here. Next step is it will check for the method, that is get. So inside this it will search the get method. It is going to display the content in HTML format. It is going to do a print writer, get a print writer to send the response from the server to the client. It will read both the numbers by request.get parameter. It will save it, it will add them and print it back to the client. So what are we supposed to run? Can we run this code? No, because it doesn't have a main method. You can just check and see, you won't be able to run this code. Okay, it will say that it doesn't have any main method, so you won't be able to run this code. We need to run this particular file, that is your index.html. Okay, so this index.html file we shall run after we get the output for this run deployed. Okay, you cannot run this because it doesn't have a main method. Okay, now what we shall do is we shall run this form. When I will run this form, I will enter two numbers, 2 and 3, and I will submit. So this is my query string. It is moving to URL adding servlet and taking both the numbers, okay, 2 and 3, and submit action, and now servicing, and I am getting the result 5. Okay, so this is how form processing can be done. You can handle strings, you can handle numbers, and you can also do certain calculations and return back the result via form processing. That's all for form processing from my side. Thank you.